If you've been enjoying all of our Attractions Insider coverage on air, online, and on our new podcast, you are going to love this. We have a new attraction series on our CTV app, and we are kicking things off with some special guests that you'll usually find under the sea. So here's our very own Ashley Carter and Nathaniel Paul with the debut episode of Attractions Insider Animal Edition.
So we're here with Megan, one of the trainers at SeaWorld. She primarily works with sea lions, walruses, and otters. And she's going to tell us a little bit about some of the animals that we'll see right here. So tell us a little bit about this guy right here.
Literally right here.
This is Avalon. He is a male California sea lion. He was born back in 2010 right next door at our Pacific Point Preserve. So he came into the animal training stadium side when he was about 1 year old. And both Mike and I have been working with him since he was about a year old, or at least around him.
Yeah, and so how old is he now?
He'll be 12 this summer.
Wow.
So sea lions are born in the summertime.
So what is it like working with them like throughout the day? What do you do?
So our shift can start as early as 5 a.m. Believe it or not, a lot of our job is also cleaning the animals' habitats, cleaning their food cylinders, things that they eat out of. But we also do a lot of things like this, like a playtime or a relate session, or what we call a learning session, where they're learning different segments that they can incorporate into the show.
And how do those learning sessions help the animals?
So they're very stimulating to the animal, absolutely. They're also building the relationship with the trainer.
Okay.
So like I said, Mike's worked with this animal since he was about a year old, and you can tell he's very into Mike, he's very into this session. He's looking for what Mike's gonna ask him to do next. And we can make these a lot of fun. We can incorporate toys. This particular animal, he likes to suck up different ice cubes.
Oh, okay.
He eats sugar-free, flavor-free gelatin. So we can make little shapes of either the gelatin or the ice cubes. We can put food coloring in them. Another part of our job is to be very creative in how we can reinforce or reward these guys. That way, they're not just doing everything for their primary reinforcement, which would be food or water or anything like that. A nice little neck rub can be reinforcing to the animal. Any of those toys can be reinforcing to the animal. Time with a certain trainer can be reinforcing to the animal. So we spend a lot of time with the animals, getting to know what they find reinforcing and maybe what they're kind of like, I'll deal with that, but it's not my favorite thing. So
How do you determine, you guys have a lot of sea lions at the park. How do you determine which ones are ready for this type of stage?
So the really nice thing about working in this area is we actually also take care of the exhibit right next door. So we get to see these animals from the time that they're born. We'll watch them with their mom for the first year while they're nursing with mom. We do interact with the animals. They have certain places where they know to go, and then we can interact with them that way. And we just kind of look for animals that have calm demeanors. They kind of look interested in us. They come over to us a little bit more than the other ones may. And we just kind of watch them. We watch their behavior, and again, things they might find reinforcing, places they might find reinforcing, and then we'll start interacting with them that way.
You mentioned like early morning start, sometimes late nights. What are the reasons that would play into you having to come in so early and stay so late?
So we make up all of their individual diets. So all that fish that I explained earlier, we separate that into individual buckets. That way they're not getting too much at one time or too little at one time. We want to have a nice, even all throughout the day and make sure that they get what they need each and every day. So that's going to start super early. Again, we want to make sure their exhibits and their areas are nice and clean right from the get-go. So we'll come in early to do that. If there was ever an animal who had behavior that didn't look very normal, and we said, hey, we want to keep eyes on this animal, we'll be here overnight. That's part of our job. We know that. A lot of us have families, but we know, hey, if we're called in the middle of the night, we're going in and we're going to watch this animal and make sure that they get what they need throughout the night and throughout the day as well. So, yeah.
You mentioned the bond between these two, so which means they've been working together for a really long time.
Yes.
Do you guys ever rotate? Like, would he respond the same to you as he does to him?
He would, but again, that's because I've been working with Avalon for quite some time. But let's say you started at our stadium tomorrow. We would show you the behaviors that he knows, how to ask them, how to reinforce them, and then we would give you guys special time together to get to know each other. So over time, eventually you would be able to do this, but it would be learning from somebody like Mike or myself or the people that have been in this area for a longer time.
I would not be starting at the stadium tomorrow, by the way. That'll be.
You should.
Yes, he's
Very
ready.
nice,
He's ready. He's
everybody
gonna sign
involved.
up. He's ready.
I do like the seafood diet though.
Yes,
we
yes.
have that in common. For you personally, you've been doing this for a while. Why do you like this job? Why do you like working with sea lions?
I love these animals. I grew up coming to the parks since I was a little kid. I always knew I wanted to be an animal trainer. I was actually in the dolphin show as a small child,
Wow.
so I knew when I was 6, I want to work at SeaWorld and I want to work with these animals. So I was lucky enough to get moved here from Shamu, and it's just great that we get to work with a lot of different species. So we work with the otters, we work with the walrus, we work with harbor seals. That's really cool. But also we get to work outside, which is a lot of fun. A lot of us have very strong relationships with each other, so we just have a really great area to work in. And the show, we kind of throw in our own little jokes, our own little pizzazz on the show, which is nice.
Shows are always great. Well, how hard of a transition was that, if any, like coming from the Shamu show to this one, like working with such massive orcas to now, like, I mean, they're pretty big, but they're not an orca.
Yes. Well, when you start at Shamu Stadium, it's a long time of just watching and learning. So I did all of my learning at Shamu, actually. And then when I came here, of course, I did the same thing. I slowly worked my way onto knowing what these animals do, but I already had the knowledge of how to do it from Shamu Stadium. So, and then again, over there, you only work with the orca whales, where here you get the 4 different species. So I had to learn how to train a sea lion and then train an otter and then train a walrus. It's all the same principles, but it's a little bit different.
Because each animal is different.
Exactly. And they all find different things reinforcing. So again, you have to know, what does this animal find reinforcing? And then you kind of work your way onto that animal. So it's a lot of practice, but a lot of fun playtimes too, like I said. And like with the otters, we can kind of put a towel over our lap. We can kind of snuggle with them for a little bit, kind of get to know them. They're not naturally what we would call tactile animals. So that's something that we train the animals to do, to be calm around with us, sit with us, hang out with us.
He just was making some noise just now. Talk to us about some of the sounds that we typically hear. And how do you guys command them to be able to do that right on cue?
So they do have vocal cords, and sometimes we're able to, what we would call, capture that vocal. So sometimes when they're doing it on their own, we'll use what we call a bridge. So we say, okay, and then we reinforce them with a primary reinforcer. So that's if you're going to capture a behavior. Sometimes if you just kind of go like this a little bit, they offer it to you, and then you show them, yes, that was what I was looking for.
Reinforce them to do it again.
Exactly.
You know, walk through the stadium every day. Kids, their eyes bright up. Like, what does that mean to you? When you in the middle of a show, sometimes you may just catch that one child, and it's just like, how does that make you feel?
Well, I think the kids are the best, of course, for so many reasons. But as we all know, we never know what somebody's going through. So we had they were a random volunteer, but we called them up. We asked where they were from. They were from the Ukraine. So of course, everybody got very emotional. And just to make that moment for that kid in that tough time, that's something so easy that we can do, you know? So I love doing things like that. But also, I was one of those kids, you know? So every day, we potentially could have influenced that child to want to work here one day and then get to live our dream like we get to do. So the kids are definitely the top priority. And
That's awesome.
we just, I mean, of course, we love seeing everybody straight but those kids get straight into our hearts, you know?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Boy, I mean, that enrichment is just remarkable. The guy hamming it up, not even knowing what he was doing, that little guy. Awesome access. We hope you enjoyed that exclusive access. So be sure to stay tuned for new episodes of Attractions Insider Animal Edition.